2.5 months, a jury in court number 2 at the Old Bailey has heard unfold the story of Essex drug dealers falling out, resulting in what the judge called this afternoon the violent and summary execution of 3 of them.
I couldn't kill a sparrow, jurors told. Jack Womes was known by some as a hard-working family man, not the cold-blooded killer portrayed by the prosecution. During his trial, Womes, standing 6'2" high and weighing 18 stone with his 50-inch chest, looked jurors in the eye and told them, "I could not kill a sparrow." Womes, 36, lived in a semi-detached house in the tiny village of Brockford on the main A140, Ipswich to Norwich Road. He worked for a time as a bouncer at Joker's nightclub in Stowmarket, and a former colleague described him as one of the nicest blokes I've ever known. He denied any involvement in drugs and said whilst working at the club in Ipswich Road, he'd called an ambulance for a girl who had taken a bad ecstasy tablet. She was foaming at the mouth. "That worried me sick," he told the court. Womes, nicknamed Bubs, was brought up in London's East End, moving to Suffolk at the age of 8. Although half literate, he was a natural mechanic. As a teenager, he'd go rabbit shooting with his family in the Suffolk countryside and described himself as an average shot. On leaving school, he started to work on vehicle repairs when his family moved. A brief spell at Ipswich Docks proceeded to a move to G&T Commercials at Barham near Ipswich in the 1980s. It was at this time he received his first conviction for hitting a farmer who Womes claimed had thrown something at his car. Womes was fined for the offence in 1985, but 8 years later he saw the inside of a prison for the first time for obtaining property by deception. It was during Womes' spell at Hollisley Bay Prison near Woodbridge that he met his partner in crime, Michael Steele. Patrick Tate and Darren Nichols were also inside, but it was Steele and Womes who kept in contact after his release in October 1993. He had not seen Tate since they were in prison together, and he did not know Tony Tucker or Craig Rolfe. Like Steele, Womes was given his day on the witness stand and denied any involvement in the murders. But he admitted being in the resident area on the day of the killings, telling the court he'd gone to the village to pick up a broken down VW Passat from outside a pub on the A130. He said he then put it onto a trailer and returned to his workshop in Main Road, Brockford. Throughout his 4-month trial, Womes was given the full support of his family, especially his brothers and his mother Pam, who was in court almost every day. Shot drug barons all lived in luxury. One of the 3 drug barons gunned down in an ambush had survived an earlier gangland bid to kill him. Patrick Tate was in his luxurious home in Basildon when a brick was thrown through the lavatory window. He looked out to investigate and was shot from close range. When he raised his arm, he was hit in the wrist. Although the bullet travelled up his arm, Tate, 37, survived the attack, only to die a year later in an Underworld execution in a remote country lane. Greed for a new and substantial profit from a cocaine deal lured them unsuspectingly to their deaths on a remote farm track in Rettendon near Chelmsford. Afterwards, one of the assassins likened himself to the Angel of Death. Michael Steele boasted he had done everyone a favour and had got rid of the sort of people you would not want around. Andrew Munday QC told the court during the trial, "Dealing in drugs is not an honourable trade. It is often the province of the double cross, the sting and double dealing. They are beyond the law, and as a result of which the remedies they take are sometimes themselves lawless. Even when a consignment is honest, there is a degree of distrust. It often breeds threats from which there are often acts of violence, and from them sometimes acts of violence, the killing of someone." Steele met Tate in jail while serving a jail sentence for drug trafficking, and the pair had a close relationship after their release, going out to restaurants and barbecues in foursomes with their partners. But according to Steele's evidence to the court, Tate took heroin, cocaine and ecstasy and was becoming a junkie. Tate, an obsessive bodybuilder, had a reputation as an Underworld enforcer. An armed robber and a drug dealer, he was also notorious for his violent temper. He also once tried to escape from court by using a high-powered motorbike in the style of the film The Great Escape. The second victim, Anthony Tucker, lived in a £150,000 bungalow in the scenic village of Fobley near Basildon. He was obsessed with security. His property included stables and a basketball court. Craig Rolfe had also lived in a luxurious detached home on an estate in Grays. The trio had met in a pub car park near Tilbury just before they were murdered. and expected to end the night clinching a major drug deal, Rolfe had bought his blue Range Rover, in which later they were to die together. As Tony Tucker's shot-ridden body laid slumped in the Range Rover, a chilling message was left on his mobile phone. "Let us know you're alright because we think you are dead. We've just heard that 3 men have been found in a Range Rover, and we think one of them's you." Whoever left this message knew he was the centre figure in the deadly criminal underworld of Essex. It is widely accepted that there could have been vast numbers of people out to kill Tate, Rolfe and Tucker. Steele's defence barrister Graham Parkins asked one retired policeman during the trial. There was literally dozens of names being put forward as being involved with these killings. Is this true? Retired Detective Inspector George Florence said, yes. Craig Rolfe had been the subject of an underworld operation by Essex police officers in the weeks leading up to his death. Detectives had been very concerned with the supply of ecstasy in the county and were clamping down on dealers and suppliers. Rolfe had also been seen buying a gun from underworld crook Mad Mick Bowman and a third person just before his death. Mr. Florence was also one of the senior officers behind an underworld operation carried out by 2 policemen on defendant Michael Steele and former girlfriend of Tate, Sarah Saunders. 2 detectives known simply as Billy and John claimed to be members of the IRA and allegedly threatened to kill Steele in a telephone call. Florence denied any knowledge of the death threat.